and the car's rolling back, they just add more gas, and that's not going to help anything. It's going to make things worse. How do these lines at the back of the car help you to move off smoothly on a hill? On this video, I'm going to show you. I'm also going to show you the 10 mistakes you're making and how to correct them when you're driving a manual car. Let's get into it. So one of the things that I see a lot of learners do, especially when they're beginning, is pressing the brake too hard when it's time for them to press the clutch down. So let me show you what I mean. What they'll do is they'll start braking, and then when it's time for them to push the clutch down, they'll put the brake down hard as well. And that's going to make the brake really harsh. And obviously you don't want to do it like this because people behind you could get surprised, and it's not a nice, comfortable ride for the people in your car. So I'm going to show you how to do it properly. So if I'm turning right at the end of this road here, so mirror, signal, I'll start braking really early. Then once I see the revs get around 1000, I'll put my clutch down. But you notice I didn't press harder on the brake. If anything, I might even ease off a tiny bit as well. So that way, the braking's a lot smoother. When I get to where I want to stop, then I put my brake down a little bit more. It's just like if I want to turn into this side road here, if I start braking early, nice gentle pressure on the brake, then when I want to put my clutch down, I'm not pressing the brake harder. I'm still pressing the same amount of pressure, going to first, check my mirror, and then make my turn. So the key is to brake early, and also remember not to brake harder when you are pressing down on the clutch. Another mistake I see a lot of learners do is adding more gas when the car starts rolling backwards. So let's say we're trying to move off now, and then we're on a very steep hill right now, and then they try to move, and the car's rolling back, they just add more gas, and that's not going to help anything. It's going to make things worse. It's not going to push you forward, it's just going to keep rolling backwards. Instead of doing it like that, what you should do is actually bring the clutch up a bit more. The reason you're rolling back in the first place is because you haven't got your biting point. So if you've got your biting point in the first place, let's say I've got my biting point right now, and then I move off, you see, or I put my handbrake down, the car goes forward, it doesn't roll backwards. If you somehow manage to get the car rolling back by mistake, you can also correct that before it becomes a problem. So instead of adding more gas, this time I'm going to bring the clutch up to the biting point so that the car stops rolling back, and then eventually it's going to start moving forward. So let's say now I'm about to move off. I haven't got my biting point on purpose, just to show you. And then if I release the handbrake, the car's rolling back, but then I just bring the clutch up and I'll catch it. Then I can add some more gas. So instead of adding more gas, remember gas in this situation is not going to help. This is another mistake I see a lot of learners do. So they'll get the biting point, ready to move off. Let's say they're at a junction or on a hill somewhere and there's traffic behind them and they're about to move off. And what they'll do is they'll get the biting point nicely, and then just before they're about to move off, they'll put the clutch down, and then that way the car starts rolling backwards. You had the biting point, but then you've lost it by pressing the clutch down. Lots of learners do it this way, I don't know why. But to avoid that, what you need to do is once you get the biting point, keep the clutch at the same place, and then the car is going to start going forward. And then if it's not going forward, bring it up a tiny bit higher, then the car will start moving forward. And the nice easy way to do this is by using the lines at the back there. If I look at my mirror and I can see the lines on the back windscreen there, if I bring my clutch up, the lines dip down a bit. And if I bring it down, they go up again. So when I bring it up, it's at the biting point now. And then if I bring it down, now the biting point is gone because I can see the car dipping up. That means that the biting point is no longer there. If I use those lines again, I'll bring my clutch there. I'll keep it there. Once it's safe, handbrake down. Notice I'm not bringing the clutch down. I'm keeping it still. And then now I can raise it up a bit more while adding more gas. That's what you want to do with your clutch so that you don't lose the biting point and therefore you don't roll back. You're going to go the right direction. So normally when you're gearing up, once you get to around 2000 RPMs or a bit beyond, that's when it's time to gear up. But on a really steep hill, some learners gear up way too soon. So like right now, this is a very steep hill and the RPM's around 2000. If I gear up into 2 right now, watch what happens. You see, the car starts vibrating, put my foot all the way down, but it's shaking a lot because it's struggling to go up this hill because it wasn't fast enough for me to change in second. It struggles. Going uphill requires a lot more speed before you change into the higher gear, and I'll show you what I mean. So this time, instead of gearing up too early, I'm going to make sure I'm going to use lots of gas first, maybe even get up to 3000 RPMs before I go into second. That way it should be a lot smoother. So like now it's a bit clearer, I'll go a bit faster, 3000 RPM, 3.5 even, then I'll go into second, bring the clutch up smoothly, and you see that way the car's not struggling. It's at the right RPMs for the car to go up the hill smoothly without struggling. So when it comes to braking, some learners treat it like an on or off switch. They'll brake and then let go, brake and then let go. This is the wrong way of doing it, because sometimes if you do it this way, especially going downhill, your car's going to pick up way too much speed. So let's say now I'm trying to control my speed and I'll use my brake a little bit here, and then what learners will do, because they think, oh, I've braked enough, they'll let go of it fully, but then now the car's going too fast again towards this side. Instead of doing it that way, what you should do is brake nice and early, nice and softly, and then if you feel like the car's braking too hard, instead of just coming off fully, just ease off a tiny bit, and then that way you're controlling it. So it's not just on or off, there's different levels to the brake. So you're pressing it down, and then if it's too much, you're easing off a tiny bit, and then if it's still too much, then you come off gradually. That way you control your speed and you control your braking nicely. One thing I see a lot of learners, especially new learners, do is pressing the gas when they're changing the gears. So they'll do it like this. So watch the revs stay high up when I'm changing gears. So they'll keep their foot on the gas, and then they'll bring the clutch up like that. So you see, that way is jerky, it's loud. You know you've done it wrong when it's jerky and loud. A gear change should be nice and smooth and quiet. If it's quiet and smooth, you know you've done it correctly. If it's loud and jerky, you've most likely done it wrong. So this time, instead of keeping my foot on the gas, I'm gonna come off the gas first before I start pressing the clutch, and you're gonna see the revs dip down on the rev meter there. So off the gas fully, clutch down, into second, and you see the revs drop, and then now they go back up again when I press the gas down after I've changed the gear. So it's done separately. You don't press the pedals together. And I think some learners as well do this by mistake. They don't realize their foot is on the gas when they're changing the gears. To prevent that mistake from happening, get used to bringing your foot up high like this when you're changing gears. So off the gas fully and then change gears. So sometimes you might be driving and then you want to change into second gear, then you might change your mind for whatever reason. And a mistake a lot of learners do is, let's say we're trying to change into second and then they change their minds. Instead of just bringing up the clutch smoothly, they'll bring the clutch up really rough like that, and then that slows the car down too aggressively. You get that jerk, and if someone was behind us right now, they could end up crashing into the back of us because the car is slowing down too aggressively. A better way would be, let's say you've gone faster and then you want to change gear, but you've changed your mind for whatever reason, you can just bring the clutch up smoothly. Yeah. This way you don't get that jerk, and add some gas in the background as well. This way you don't get that violent jerk. The car doesn't slow down aggressively, it slows down gradually. Or if you change your mind, just go into second anyway, and then afterwards you can go back into first if you wanted to go back into first. It's okay to go into second and then back into first straight after. Yeah, it's much better than changing your mind like now and then violently bringing the clutch up, because it's going to make the car slow down too aggressively. Now when it comes to reversing is supposed to be done slowly. So whether you're parking or reversing to go around something or to avoid something, it's supposed to be done really slowly. Now this is something that a lot of learners struggle with. So what they'll do a lot of the times is, let's say we get into reverse, and they'll bring the clutch up around here and then keep it around there. Then you see, this makes the car go way too fast in reverse. Instead of doing it like that, what you need to be doing is playing with the clutch around the biting point. This will control your speed really well. So let's say I'm going into reverse. Instead of bringing my clutch up really high, I bring it just to the bite until it starts moving, and then down a bit, to the bite, down a little bit, to the bite, and then down a bit. Yeah, this keeps it really slow, giving it a bit of power and then taking it away again. Don't bring it too high or hold it in a high position. Just around the biting point is enough, and then down again. And that should make it nice and slow. So when you're driving, it's a good idea to get into first as you get into a junction, especially if you need to give way and you can't see properly. But what some people do is they'll do it too early when they're going too fast. I'm doing just around 20 miles per hour, and I know I need to go into first. Some learners will do it way too early because they know they need to go into first, and then they'll try to force it into first, and then when they bring the clutch up, you see, it's too rough. It's too fast for first. What you should do really is wait until you get near the junction. So like now I'm slowing down gradually, mirror signal left, and then now my speed is around 10 miles per hour, and then once the RPMs go to 1,000 or just a bit below, then I'll go into first and check around, make sure it's safe, and then move out. Eventually, when you drive your car often, you won't have to rely on the RPMs, but at first a good way to know when to gear down again is when the RPMs drop to 1,000 or lower. That means that the gear you're in is a bit too high for the speed that you're trying to do, so you need to go into a lower gear. So just like approaching these lights here, I can keep it in second because right now the RPMs are high enough, but the more I brake, the lower the RPMs go, and then Right now it's still fine. Once I get to like around here, you see the RPMs have gone really low, they've gone to 1,000, and below that it starts shaking, and then if it's too low, it'll stall eventually. So around 1,000 is enough for me to go back into first. That way I'm ready to move off again when the lights change to green.